We're told, believe in yourself, build your brand, be the best. But the saints warn us, pride is the beginning. Pride is the beginning of all sin. So which is it? Can you be ambitious and successful without becoming prideful or self-centered? In other words, what's the line between healthy confidence and ego? Let's talk about it. First, we need to talk about terms. So we're going to cover what pride is, ego is, humility is, and magnanimity. We have to first uncover what these mean. From a Thomistic approach, we're going to use Aquinas and his definitions, and what modern day tells us these mean. Now, Aquinas says pride is disordered desire for self-excellence above right reason and God. Modern day tells us that pride really is self-confidence, achievement, identity, and often this is seen as good. Let's talk about ego. Ego is a term that was later developed by Freud, so we kind of have to match the gap because it isn't like a direct, right, sort of thing. But we could say that ego is the inordinate self-love, will turned inward, and root of spiritual pride. Now, the modern world will tell us that ego really is about self-image and self-esteem and assertiveness. Now, what about humility? Humility, from Aquinas' perspective, is that it is the truthful self-awareness before God. It is ordered self-understanding. Modern world will tell us that this is seen as weak and low confidence. Now, magnanimity is striving for God's glory, striving for greatness for God's glory, not self-glory. This, in today's world, is seen as ambition, drive, success, and often what we think of when we say self-fulfillment. Now, what is disordered pride? Pride you could think of as like the queen of all vices, right? So pride is self is greater than God, that you're better than others, and that you take credit for God's gifts. This is the sort of pride we want to avoid. And when we're thinking of ordered self-worth, which is more closely what kind of the current world tells us that pride is this self-worth, is ordered self-worth is actually acknowledging that your gifts come from God, that you're using these gifts for others' goods, for another's good, like the common good, and aims excellency out of love and duty. So it isn't trying to be the greatest for my sake, but being the greatest at said craft for others, out of love, out of self-giving. You can think of this as like studying, being well studied in a certain topic for the benefit of other people, like yourself. When we think of humility, we often think of it as thinking less of yourself. That's wrong. What you should really see humility as is thinking of yourself less. In other words, thinking of yourself rightly in light of God. What we should all be striving for is true humility. A humility that puts others' needs before you, not something as weakness, but out of passion and love to better serve others. In the gospel, we're reminded to deny ourselves and to carry our cross. The Baptist reminds us that he must increase and I must decrease. It isn't about neglecting yourself or your well-being, but focusing on the cross, focusing your will to his divine will, conforming your soul to his plan for you. Not out of disdain for your well-being, but rejecting, maybe you could say, rejecting a good for a greater good. Rejecting your will, what you think you want to do, for God's plan in your life. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is in college, I'm studying business, and a huge part about business is this pride or ego sense. And I was really trying to understand, how can we merge these two segments of humility and pride? And the reality is the definitions of today's world are not those shown to us in the faith. The truth is, pride should be avoided at all costs. It is the queen of all vices. And humility is what helps us grow in virtue. Without it, we cannot possibly get closer to him. So today I urge you to go and practice humility. Not as thinking less of yourself, but think of yourself less. Think of others and what they need. How can you help them? And if there's any good in what you do, it is not because of your own doing, but it's because of his doing, working through you. So I hope this helps, and until next time, later.